Nikki and I went to a Spotify and Grammy party recently to watch all of the best new artist nominees perform ahead of the award show. More on that at the end of the episode. They all brought their own magic touch, but one performer captured an energy that I don't feel often when watching live performances. It was Victoria Monet. It was the feeling of someone on the cusp of something great, at least visibly to the public. She's already been doing great things, those that know her. I predicted that she would be winner of the Best New Artist category the morning of the Grammys in a TikTok, and I ended up being right. I'll insert that.
And let me know who you think is going to win Best New Artist at the Grammys tonight. I think it might be Victoria Monet.
It's almost like I'm ahead of the curve. What makes Victoria great is she spent 14 plus years working in music, not knowing if her own solo career would ever take off. Those are the artists who have the persistence to keep going, even when fame doesn't happen overnight. I had been aware of her, but after that night, I dedicated the next few days to listening to every interview that I could find and listening to her music and researching to learn more for this episode. As we always say, our favorite quote is, "It takes 10 years to be an overnight success." This is the Victoria Monet effect, a story of collaboration, persistence, and genuine love of artistry. Hi, I'm Coco.
And I'm Nikki.
And welcome back to Share Your Screen. In this episode, we will dive into Victoria Monet's musical background as a writer for some of the biggest hits in the last decade, her rise as a solo artist and making a name for herself, then finish with predictions for her and even our first behind-the-scenes story time on Share Your Screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically a night of brushing shoulders with A-list artists at the Spotify Grammy event. How are you feeling? How do you feel about last week?
That was amazing. We'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
But even something you said about Victoria talking about it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. I was listening to her acceptance speech for the Best New Artist, and she used this metaphor of comparing herself to a plant, which I loved. And it was this idea of a plant has to spend years growing its roots, because if it didn't do that, it wouldn't have the foundation to grow up. And if it started from the stem and the leaves, there'd be nothing anchored to the ground and it would fall over. And I don't know, I just love that metaphor, and I love that comparison of how sometimes the universe is preparing you for your own moment, even if you don't know what your moment is yet. And that sometimes you're planting roots for things that you can't even fathom are to come. But if you had all that success initially, then you might not have been able to maintain it the same way. And I think now you see, I think Victoria Monet is now on the highway of the music industry. You know what I mean? She has networked with all these producers. She's already collaborated with the biggest artists in the industry. She's been a writer for 10 years. She's gone on tour. She's open for tours. And I think we're going to see her she's already taken off, but an even larger breakthrough in the next year. And I think that is such a beautiful story, going back to this overnight fame versus slow burns of it's going back to the Sabrina episode even. It feels like they have similar trajectories in when they got their moment, they could just run with it in a way that not everybody is always equipped to do.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of her speech, and it reminds me of this kind of anecdote and analogy that I always think about when talking about success and fame, and it's how bamboo trees take 5 years.
I think I'm the one who told you this.
No, I think I was the one who told you.
Really?
Yes, I read it. I read it in a book.
Okay.
And it was, you have to water the bamboo tree for 5 years, and you're not going to see the tree grow. Mm-hmm. So you don't know if it's working. You can't dig up the soil and look to see if there's roots. You just have to trust that the roots are growing. And eventually, once you water it enough, after 5 years, within I think it's 6 weeks, the bamboo tree just booms to the size of a 2 or 3 story building. But if you give up on year 4 and 6 months, you will never have known how many roots were there to it was about to sprout. And I think that's such a great kind of analogy too. And so I want to get into her background now. So she was born in Atlanta, but moved to Sacramento as a child. She's a Taurus. I also think that you can really see the NorCal influence in her music. And just I always say, so living in SoCal, I was always jealous of NorCal people growing up, because they have the best music. They just produce the best music. They have the best vibe. And I think you really see that in her sound. And when she got into the industry, so she begged her mom to send her to an art school in high school. And then she added a producer named Darkchild on MySpace, and he invited her to come to an audition for a group called Purple Rain. She made it. They signed to Motown, but then they were dropped before they ever released music. But it was like them trying to be a Destiny's Child.
Yeah, the story of how Victoria Monet got discovered is insane.
Yeah.
It starts with her literally sliding into somebody's DMs on MySpace.
Right.
And some random producer, or not a random producer, his name is Darkchild. He's actually used to be a rapper. He's won Grammys and had now essentially become a producer full time. Mm-hmm. So she slides into his DMs, sends her music. He's like, you can come and audition for this thing, right? Which is Purple Rain. It's a girl group. They go to do this audition. They then record 21 songs together, demo them for this label. And then the label's like, actually, we changed our mind. We're not going to sign you, and drops all 3 of them.
Right.
So then after that, she's like, well, what do I do? I don't know, right? So she's begging. And finally, Darkchild connects her with somebody, and she becomes a writer. She's at the beginning not even writing full songs, like was really only writing hooks for songs. Mm-hmm. But one of the people who was impressed by her hooks was Ariana Grande. Mm-hmm. So then she starts writing for Ariana over a few years. And also, I cannot fathom the feeling of like wanting to be a solo musician yourself, having that label essentially tell you you're not good enough, but be like, okay, well, you can write some songs for someone else.
Yeah.
And then that person goes on to like win Grammys. She literally wrote, like, is a co-writer of, like, Thank You Next, 7 Rings, like, songs in the Billions Club.
Right,
and, like, to have to watch that, like, she is a stronger woman than I.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been so resentful. It's again, like something you said earlier, it's about her love of the artistry. Mm-hmm. Like, I think she really did that because she knew in her soul, like, she was meant to do music.
Yes.
And if it wasn't going to be a solo career at the beginning, she would take any way that would manifest itself.
Yes, just loving it. And we'll get to that too. She was at Purple Rain. Yeah, they dropped them Motown. And then she got picked up by Atlantic Records. And at this time in like the 2010s was when rap music had a lot of like catchy hooks sung by pop singers. Yep. So think like Rihanna and Eminem's like Love the Way You Lie. Yep. And then you have a rap verse. So she was the one going in and was like, this is kind of how I get my foot in the door is all of these rap songs need these like hooks. Yeah. And like that's where she got recognized by Diddy. And yeah, the way that she met Ariana was through one of Ariana's collaborators named Tommy. And then Victoria was in the studio at Tommy, and then Tommy like connected the two of them. And yeah, was working on and it kind of reminds me too of so Ariana and Victoria Monet have a really great relationship, and Ariana even was saying she was like manifesting the win for her at the Grammys. But the story outside of that and their relationship reminds me of Ashanti, who is a R&B singer and very famously was writing these really great songs that were then given to J-Lo. And they even kept her voice on a lot of the songs and just passed it off as J-Lo's voice, allegedly. But I'm pretty sure you guys can look it up and fact check yourselves. But it reminded me of that where Ashanti, and again, I think we would be not doing this specific episode justice if we didn't also state the intersectionalism happening here where a black woman is not going to get the same opportunities as a white woman or the same credit as a white woman. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably a part of the story here that, I don't know, I don't want to like turn a blind eye to either.
No, I think that's a very big part of the story.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, like even just the idea of like, we respect your talent, or we not even respect, we are interested in your talent, but like, we'd prefer somebody more marketable. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like more interpret that how you want. But like it's a sad truth, I guess, of the end. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how to.
Yeah. And I think we even see that because I don't think some people were trying to like have it come off this way. But I saw so many videos on my For You page after she won the Grammy that were like, she won over Noah Kahan. Have you guys ever heard who is even Victoria Monet? And I'm like, of course. Like, it was just that vibe of like, does she deserve it over like my white faves kind of thing? And I think that's just something to acknowledge. Now, a few songs that she's written that like she really went from the whole thesis of this is like she went from Ghostwriter to Grammy winner. And I think those things are really hard to do. Some songs that she wrote is like Seven Rings by Ariana Grande, Do It by Chloe and Holly, Honeymoon Avenue by Ariana Grande, which is one of my favorite songs. It was one that really put Ariana Grande on the map, and also was also produced by Leon Thomas. He played Andre in Victorious, a mute of mine. And then Body Count by Jessie Reyes, Kalani, and Normani. Admit It by Fred again, another Grammy Best New Artist nominee. Breaking Point, Leon Thomas. And then this is a cool fun fact. Did you know that Victoria Monet, one of the first songs that she ever wrote, at least according to her songwriter profile on Spotify, it was a song titled Deja Vu for Coco Jones. And what makes it so cool is that, one, the title's Deja Vu, which is kind of this eerie, like, nod to the fact that over 10 years later, Coco Jones and Victoria Monet would be nominated for Grammy Best New Artist together, which is so cool. It's like they're having deja vu, like they wrote this song together. It's deja vu
now. Yeah, exactly.
Their first songs. Are there any other songs that she's written that you think?
She has written a lot of songs for Fifth Harmony, and also even opened for Fifth Harmony on tour once, which, again, going back to the thing, like, imagine auditioning as a girl group, writing 21 songs, being told that those songs are not good enough, then being dropped, but then being like, hey, we would love it if you came and write some songs for a different girl group that you can now, you're not a part of it. We got 5 other women. Like, that is like such a, you have to love the art to go through that. And you have to have this like undeniable compass of like, this is what I am meant to do, and I will figure this out. I will persevere through. And even after like Fifth Harmony, she's still written for songs like Normani and Kalani, and she's written songs for Quavo and Selena Gomez, Blackpink. Like, she has been everywhere. And I think it's awesome too that I feel like the Academy really like thought about that when giving her a Best New Artist nom. At least I hope they did, of like not just what she did this year, but like the roots that had been planted prior.
Yeah, and like even watching her perform at the Spotify thing, there was this spark. But then like the reason I made that video and at the end I was like, I think she's gonna win, is because I also realized that she's probably written songs for people either in the Academy or who represent artists that are in the voting Academy.
Yeah.
And so there was probably this like mutual respect for her, an understanding of her that maybe the other artists are just too new to have yet. And I think that probably helped. And I also think like I mean, this is how you know someone's successful, is when people say that they're an industry plant. But I think that Victoria Monet, if anything, was like the one who was forced to like water other people's seeds. Like, she was never the one who was actually planted and nourished unless she was the one doing it herself.
Right. And it's beautiful too because she's so gracious about it.
Yeah.
Like, she's never talked about, this is my interpretation of like, this is how I would feel if I was in her position. Never, not once has she like shown any sort of resentment or hostility towards anybody. And I think that that is very admirable.
Yeah, especially like seeing how successful, I guess it's like when, you know, when the ships around you rise, it means the water's rising and pulling you up too.
Yeah.
It's like the gracious way to see it.
Off topic, going back to what you said about the blonde hair.
Yes.
When we were at that Spotify thing and Victoria Monet came out to perform, one, best performance. Like,
so good.
Brought it.
Yes.
Brought it. Two, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but it made me think of your Hollywood hair theory.
Oh.
When she started coming out with 2 other women dancing in a V formation with honey blonde hair and put a hat on, kind of covering her face, I was like, this is Destiny's Child.
Oh, like they were
this
3.
is literally like, this was it, I don't think it was like attempting to copy it, but essentially like mirroring the success of like the way their music videos would look and the way I was like, this is so Destiny's Child's coded. And it was so interesting. And I could totally see her team being very strategic about trying to align her image with that of a young Beyonce.
Right. And I think that sounds like it's what they tried to do in the beginning when they had the Purple Rain and it didn't stick. And yeah, it seems like now that Beyonce is pulling back a little bit, and also now everyone's doing country music now, because it seems like there's rumors Beyonce is going to go into country and Lana. there's going to be this kind of gap in the market for that, unless of course you have like Normani, who I love Tinashe, but I do think that there maybe are going to be people who try to replicate what like Beyonce was doing with like Crazy in Love.
And I also think we're just seeing the resurgence of girl groups.
Yes.
Like K-pop really repopularized music groups again, I think too. And obviously the other two were just dancers. So I'm not saying she's like doing it from that perspective, but just in terms like we'll edit it on screen.
Yes.
Like if you didn't know that was Victoria Monet and you were 50 feet away and somebody said that's Beyonce, it's believable. You know what I mean? Like it could pass.
They even brought out the fans.
Exactly. They brought out the fans. They had the little snapbacks, like the formation, the synchronized movements. Like it was so Beyonce coded.
It was very Beyonce coded. And it was like, you could tell she put a lot into that performance. And so out of all of the performers that we saw at the event, Victoria Monet and Ice Spice were the only ones who only performed like 2 songs and then ran off stage.
I know.
I think it was like a leave them wanting more. I think it was like a, okay, that's all you get. Like it was like a power play to be like, all right, like I'm leaving now at the peak when you think I'm going to do another one.
Right.
But we'll get into that. So then another thing is kind of moving into like current as well. Victoria Monet made history at the Grammys with 7 nominations, which was the most nominations in a single year for a Black, openly queer woman.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, super cool. Also cool that it was the same year that Luke Combs brought out Tracy Chapman for running in your car, Fast Car. I literally was like, so they did Luke Combs doing the intro to Fast Car, and I was sitting there with my parents, and I'm like, dude, he's gonna bring out Tracy Chapman. And then they pan the camera and it's straight like, because they couldn't not. Like, you can't invite Luke Combs to sing a rendition of a song that already existed and not invite the person that literally created the song.
Right.
Also, country is just coming back in full force.
I don't want it to.
If Lana does it, if Lana does it, I love it.
Too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Lana album will be good.
Okay.
But like,
the surge of Zach Bryan. I've never heard his music, but he's dating Brianna from like the BFF pod. And then Lana announcing Lasso. There's rumors Beyonce's going to go country, and that's why she was wearing a cowboy hat at the Grammys.
Beyonce I can do, but I think she was wearing cowboy hat at the Grammys because Pharrell. I think it's a Louis Vuitton collection.
Oh, so it was like a nod to the
thing.
Oh, okay.
And
that
they're
would be
like
cool.
best friends.
Did you see the video of the Carters leaving the Grammys early and then Lil Uzi's like walking next to Blue leaving too?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God.
Funny.
I'll put the video on screen. It was just so funny because the comments were like, you're like leaving your family function and like, you convince your mom to let your cousin come with you. Because he was like walking with like next to Beyonce and Blue, like leaving. I'm like, is he getting in the Uber? Like, are they going to Mel's Diner?
I love that. He's just trying to get there.
Exactly.
I hope he just saw his opportunity and ran.
Right. Yeah. And then another thing is she went on to headline a tour in 2023 to perform her 2 Jaguar albums. I do wonder, like, do you think there's some marketing magic here in putting out 2 of the same titled albums as like an act 1, act 2? Like, what do you think that is?
This ties into my theory that I'm about to go is I have a theory that Victoria Monet is going to go on tour with Ariana Grande this year and that Victoria's going to open for Ariana Grande's like world tour. Or maybe she'll do a different US opener, but then she'll do like what Sabrina did for Taylor, where she opened in South America and stuff like that. Because 1, we know an Ariana Grande album is coming, right? 2, obviously they're best friends, have been working together for years.
Yeah.
3, in interviews since 2019, Victoria has always said that Jaguar is a trilogy. It is a trilogy. So, and every time somebody wins Best New Artist, their team is like, go, go, go. Like they go crazy with the marketing. They go on tour. They release tons of music because they're trying to like ride the wave, right? So I'm like, okay, if she's already announced that from the first album that she knew this was going to be a trilogy, that means 1, she probably has some of the songs written, or at the very least some like idea of what the last part of the trilogy is. So I think Victoria's going to drop a surprise album. Then Ariana's going to drop her album. And then
Sunshine.
Victoria and Ariana are going to go on tour together. And also imagine like the last set. So like Victoria's the opener. The last song she performs is Monopoly.
And then
Ariana comes out. They do it together. And then that's how it segues like into the performance. Oh my God. It would be so, that moment would get clipped all over TikTok. Like it would be so viral.
So viral. And I think so many artists are going to be like putting so much more into their live performances now after the success of Sabrina Carpenter's Nonsense outro, the Eras tour, Beyonce's Renaissance tour, like on the horse and like bringing Blue Ivy out to dance. Like there's definitely so much more going into it, which also leads me to another thing, which is that I didn't realize this. Maybe it's not for all tours, but did you know that when you open, even for a really big act, you have to like pay for your own production? So I listened to multiple interviews where Victoria Monet was explaining how when she opened for Ariana Grande on the Dangerous Woman tour, she didn't have backup dancers or backup singers, a band on stage, because she had to pay for it. So she was like, I had to learn how to entertain an audience, just me and a microphone for like Ariana Grande's crowd, which is like probably boot camp in stage presence.
Yeah, but again, talking about it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Like, look how good she's on a stage now.
Exactly.
I guarantee you, her having to do that, entertain Ariana Grande's audience solo, was like running with the weights on.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, that is honing your craft.
Yeah, and it makes me appreciate live performances even more, because I just assumed that there was like a company footing the bill.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think that it's the artist paying for the production behind them. And it makes me think of when Miley Cyrus said that her Bangers tour that she went on, where she came out on the tongue, and it was like one of these huge moments in her career. I think she said she like went into debt for that tour, because she was like, I'm going to put so much money into this because it's like something that's for my fans.
Yeah.
And she didn't make like the money back in a way. And I just always thought that these tours, like the money just comes out of thin air.
That's exactly why Beyonce has never broken a record for any sort of like profit off of tours, because she spends so much money on the production.
Right.
There's like the desk, then she's a bee. Now there's like a horse coming from the sky. Like it's they gotta bust that stuff around the country. Like it's not just setting it up. It's like so much transportation, and then they gotta pay the truck driver. Then they have to pay the backup dance. Like there's so much that goes into stuff like that. But again, I also respect people who really put their weight into the performance.
Right. Because it really shows that they're doing it for the fans, if it means that it's like coming out of their paycheck. Like, I'm putting my money into this. If you guys listen to any like podcast about Victoria Monet, if you want to learn more about her, I recommend the Ricky Thompson, Denzel Dion, We Said What We Said podcast. That was the one I listened to a bunch, but this one really gave me so much insight into Victoria Monet. On that podcast is where she talked about having to like pay for her production on Dangerous Woman. And like, that's why it was just her and a microphone. But this was back in 2022. Denzel Dion on the podcast said to Victoria Monet, you are going to be nominated for a Grammy soon. Like,
wow, he manifested it.
Yes. And that was before Jaguar 2 on My Mama came out. So like very, like so time traveler, really manifesting it, putting it out there. And yeah, I just think that there's like, I'm excited if there is that trilogy, because I was listening to her music. There's this one song called Party Girls. Again, it's like, there's this new, I think for a long time with like Billie Eilish's music, and there was just this very like slow, sad girl pop, and there wasn't a ton of music or like choreo.
Yeah.
And now we're getting the Tate McRae's, Victoria Monet's, and also like someone who always, I think, was bringing this energy was Normani. But I just really think that Victoria Monet brings this like dance visual that I see with Tate McRae as well in music.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also the interesting thing about music is that it's not always new. Like pop is going to be pop, country is going to be country, but it's about, I think, filling a void in popularity. Like I would even really... like different, but like I think Olivia Rodrigo even kind of did this.
Yeah.
Like think of like the 2005 Avril Lavigne's and stuff, and how popular that was. And then that fell out of popularity, and just no one made music like that. And then she blew up for, you know, a song like Good For You or whatever. Like, and it's not that it's completely brand new, but I think it's just understanding like, wow, this was like really cool art that we were all consuming and enjoyed, and then for some reason something else came popular, as like trend cycles work. But going back and like researching that, I mean, even in the last episode too, we talked about like, I was comparing like Noah Kahan to Ed Sheeran, about how I feel like they're not the same, but they kind of are, in the sense of like this ability to combine folk and pop and like subject matter and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And speaking of like all of those things, so on my notes here, of course, I have she won Best New Artist at the Grammys. Really proves that quote. Like it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Also another, I think just this pool of nominees at the Best New Artist this year really proved that theory of it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. I mean, Coco Jones' song written by Victoria Monet coming out in 2013, and Coco Jones
She's
was
also on
also
Disney Channel.
Yeah, and you do too for a check, as
Exactly.
she says. And it's like Jelly Roll, as Selena Ong in our last interview said, that had like 10 studio albums before that one song Save Me. And it really, like, I don't know, it gives me a lot of hope because I'm like, okay, I'm only on like year 3.
Yeah, no, literally,
Right?
I had this exact thought earlier today. I was like, well, if this is what I'm doing at 24, I think I can figure it out.
Yeah, if like there's, I think that for so long there was this feeling that in the entertainment industry, if you weren't like 17 and getting your big break, like you were
past your
gone.
prime. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the internet really revolutionized that it opened the door to more people. If you genuinely can just like, whatever your art form is, music, podcasting, whatever, if you can genuinely just like tell a good story and like captivate people, just keep showing up and like your time will come. Of course, there's other layers here. Like we talked about the intersectionalism, and, I think Victoria Monet and Coco Jones had to climb a steeper hill that took longer than others. It makes me think of they were kind of joking and going back and forth, but Bobby Althoff did an interview with Keke Palmer, and they have the same talent manager. And Keke Palmer kind of jokes at Bobby like, it took you 5 minutes to get here and it took me 20 years.
Dude, I saw multiple videos on my For You page about this exact interview. I literally, it's in my watch later right now.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I can't give it. I have no thoughts on it. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen some other people's thoughts on it, and they're not positive.
Yeah.
But going back to also like the reason that I think we're able to have these Victoria Monet stories too, or like the Jelly Roll stories, I do think is because of the way technology revolutionized the industry. Like, I seriously think, like, we'll use Jelly Roll as an example because he has 10 albums, which is so many. Like, if you heard a song on the radio, you can't just go back and listen to his album from 2007. But if you find it on Spotify, instantly the entire catalog is there. You know what I mean? Or like someone like Victoria Monet too. You know what I mean? Like, people who have put out music for a long time. It actually is like an improvement of technology, like the ability that you can instantly access something, even if it was made 7 years ago or whatever, given more momentum or chances to artists who have been in the industry for longer or didn't have a, instant overnight success story, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that that's like a really beautiful thing.
Totally. It's like the rise of catalogs over like just having one quick hit or whatever. It helps, I think, maintain that fame.
Exactly.
Where like people have more to like chew on and like dive in.
Exactly.
Versus like the radio played one song and then maybe you never hear them again, or you don't even know their name. You don't know where to find them. It's like now you have those things, which leads us into like just, I guess, our story times. Do you have anything else that you want to add that I didn't touch on? Or
no, you did so well.
Thank you. I wanted to just like do a little quick segment at the end here talking about our week, because our episode with Selena Ong, the head of global editorial at Spotify, we got to go to the Spotify Grammy party as a result. And
it was the best party I've ever been to in my life.
Best night of our lives. I have vlog footage. Let me know if you guys want the vlog, or like if we comment down below if you want to see the vlog.
Okay, we need to talk about this in like layers, because there's layers.
Okay, let's hear.
First, we need to talk about like the interview with Selena itself was crazy.
So good.
Like I think that woman is a genius. Yes. Undoubtedly. 2, I learned so much about the music industry. So much. Like about the way that discovery happens and the way that artists blow up, and also just like the way that they even pitch themselves and stuff like that. Like there's so much that I just knew existed but didn't understand like the nuances of it. And it was so insightful. Honestly, go stream. It was our most recent episode prior to this. You'll love it. It was so interesting.
Yeah, it was. I think I learned a lot in how they pick like songs to feature and why it was so interesting. They were saying like Noah Kahan was doing good on like Indian folk, like niche playlists. And so they tested him on Pop Rising, and they were like shocked at how many Gen Z women like attached to him from that. And it was just so, and I also think that Spotify is really positioning themselves as like a champion of new music and new artists.
I think so too. I mean, I also think that's why they only threw a party for Best New Artist.
Yeah.
Like they didn't do an album of the year party. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was so cool. My favorite part was like getting golf carted in. And I also thought that the invite said from some Best New Artist nominees. And I thought we'll get 1 or 2 performances. We were front row for all of them.
All of them.
It was, except Fred again.
He didn't come.
But I don't even think he was at the Grammys.
Well, he's not from the US, right?
Yeah, but like I think it's interesting. It reminds me of at the Oscars, there's one like old Hollywood actress named Katharine Hepburn. And she got like 3 wins at the Oscars and never showed up to any of the award shows.
Wow.
And they kept giving her the Oscar and she just never showed up, never would go. And it's the only time in history that there was a tie for an award at the Oscars. And it was when it went to Barbra Streisand, and it was because the award was also going to go to Katharine Hepburn, but she didn't show up for like the 3rd time. So then they gave it also to Barbra Streisand because Barbra Streisand was like physically in the audience, and it was when she was super young. So it was Barbra Streisand's like first Oscar.
Wow.
And it's just a fun fact. It just gave like Katharine Hepburn vibes that like Fred again, I don't think was at the Grammys.
That's so interesting.
I was looking it up, but I couldn't see if he was there. Speaking of live music, Coachella, and also like, do we want to talk about the person threatening our Coachella experience? We're extending a grapevine because we don't know what we did.
There's a very angry commenter, and we were cracking up.
I know. I was like scared. It was someone kept commenting on multiple of our videos because it all came in at like once. So they must have just like gone.
Yes.
They were like, I work for Coachella security, and I'm gonna make sure you guys have the most miserable experience.
I will find you where you are.
Good luck at Coachella. I was like, I was like, what did we do? Careful. No, what scared me was be careful who you piss off. I was like,
What we do?
I was like, who did we piss off? I was so scared, but I also like went to their profile. Also, someone commented on one of their comments on our video and goes, "Oh my God, who did they make mad?" I was like, I don't know.
We don't know either, girl.
I went to their profile and their watch later like playlist is public, and it was like one of my random interviews. Not even on my podcast or ours. It was like a podcast I went on, and it was like their top watch later. So I do want to say like thank you like for supporting. Thank you for the engagement. Honestly, this is a peace treaty to Jordan. We don't know what we did, and we're sorry. Please let us have a good Coachella experience.
Please, Jordan. We're so sorry for.
We're so sorry
how we
pissed
upset
off.
you. Me just giving a generic
I know.
apology.
Yeah, we'll leave a notes app apology too on our Insta stories.
Yeah.
So I genuinely don't know what we did or why we made them mad, but we're sorry. Another thing is we're going to Vegas for Super Bowl week.
We're going to Super. Oh wait, no, listen.
We're like adjacent. Oh yeah. We're going to Vegas. We fly out tomorrow morning, and we're gonna go. I'm excited for the all-you-can-eat buffet.
Oh, girl,
that's where it's at.
The Wynn buffet.
Yeah,
it's about to change.
Wynn buffet, and you guys, it's going for. I'm doing like a Verizon HBO Max event, and I'm filming a few videos with the cast of a show that I've been watching recently, and I really love. So if you guys go support my TikTok, Instagram, wherever I post the videos, woot woot. And then I just wanted to end on one more note too, like a pop culture, news of the day.
I have a hot Grammy take too, but you go first.
Okay, cool. We'll end on your hot Grammy take. My pop culture news is Snapchat put out a thing where they were like, we're the antithesis of social media. Like we're anti-social, like when you're sick of social media, come to me. And I was like, okay. But also I do think that I think in a year from now, all social media is going to get rid of all metrics. Like, at least public metrics. I feel like you are not going to be able to see how many views anyone has. You're not going to be able to see how many likes anyone has, how many comments. It's just going to say view comments. You're not going to be able to see how many followers anyone has. I think they're going to get rid of all metrics on all social media.
There's no
You think because of advertisers? Yeah. I think advertisers would love it though, because then no one can see how bad their like videos flop.
But they need a way to like evaluate the people.
Yeah, maybe
And also I think weirdly, social media benefits off this like weird niche caste system that there's like tiers and a ranking based on a number.
You work hard to like.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're gonna post more when you're at 475K than you are at 501K. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like because you want to hit that metric.
That's so true. I feel like the only thing that Snapchat is really good at though, in like why younger, like Gen Z loves it, is because there isn't this like need to show off. Like no one can see if you're failing, no one can see your numbers. So like people show up more authentically. But I will say like something that I'm critical of Snapchat is because I've tried to make videos there and whatever, but when I go on their Discover page, it's very clearly like aimed at children, but they have really weird thumbnails that I'm like,
No,
what's
what
the
it
audience?
is, it's literally every single time is it's somebody
like in the splits,
shirtless.
Yeah.
And then as the last thing, then they make that the thumbnail, but then do it so people click through all their stories so they get all the ad revenue.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, so you're just like thirst trapping children. That's weird.
And that's what I don't like. And I hope Snapchat changes that because I do think they're capturing something here with like, I think it's why they put out this statement that was like, we're the antithesis of social media.
I guess, but I just think Instagram's going to copy them. And it's going to kill
time.
Snapchat again.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what they did with stories initially.
Yeah.
Like, Snapchat really blew up because stories, they're the only platform that did it. Now, Instagram has stories. And most people who aren't kids don't use Snapchat anymore. And I could see Instagram just doing that again. And it's like, you know what I mean? And also, I think people don't want another social platform. Like, I think we're reaching the saturation point. But,
Grammy hot take?
Grammy hot take. Also, I want to talk about UMG and TikTok. We should talk about that on here.
Okay, let's do it.
My first Grammy hot take. I was so excited that she won a Grammy, but it really bothers me that the record of the year was Flowers by Miley Cyrus when it is literally a song that is like a riff off of a song that's like been nominated before and stuff.
Right. Was
like
it
When I Was Your Man by Bruno Mars.
Oh.
And it's like, and don't get me wrong, like sampling stuff happens in music all the time. But it's like, even the lyrics are like, I can buy myself flowers. I can hold my own hand. Is like, it's the song. And I don't get me wrong, I love the song. I think it's like, it was a very cool that it's like an artistic interpretation, that it's almost like a rebuttal to the original song, that it's like, you know, I know it has like ties to like her past relationship and stuff like that. I love it. But for me, the idea that the record of the year is a song that has been made before. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was just very like, and I think especially after we had so much nostalgia bait this year, like every reboot ever, I was like, I just wanted something original.
Right.
I just am trying to support originality. Not that I dislike it, not that I think she didn't deserve it. It was quite literally, by definition, the most streamed song of the entire year by a wide margin. So like she deserved it.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know. It just like weirdly bothers me that like an award that I just think it should be based on originality. Right.
And maybe it was just like, maybe maybe the Academy weirdly likes that because again, these award shows are about keeping the status quo.
Yeah.
Like keeping people in place. Like it's like, oh, like you followed a song that we've already nodded is good. So like good for you. Like you followed the script in a way. I will say I think Miley was really like, you could tell she was just like vibing. Like she was so happy.
Dude, did you see the Miley Cyrus clip where she's like, somebody asked her why she wanted to perform at the Grammys. And she's like, so I can watch myself on YouTube tomorrow. I was like, that's iconic.
Yes. No.
That's iconic.
When she was performing in that like Tina Turner outfit, my mom's like, that's like, it's a nod to Tina Turner. But when she was performing, I was like, oh, this is Hannah Montana. Like if she grew up. And like, this is like a full circle, like healing moment. Like it was like the outfit was like Hannah Montana. It was like a mix of brown and blonde hair.
Did you know that Miley Cyrus in interviews has said that she would bring back Hannah Montana?
Really?
She said she would not do it for music, but she would do it for like a movie.
Oh,
and I was like,
cool.
That would be a Disney Plus original movie.
But it has to be good.
Like, well, what I want is it's like her older and she has a daughter and she like passes the wig on. You know what I'm thinking about? Like that would be everything to me. And I think it was beautiful. I mean, I think she's like talked about how she's like put the wig on and tried to like make music and stuff even, but it's just like there's a lot of trauma there, I guess. But she's like, I think she pretty clearly has stated that she's like gone to the point where she thinks of it fondly now. And that it was like a very, you know, big part of her life. Yeah. And that she would like to pay homage to the character, which I think is really beautiful. I love that. I hope it wouldn't be like nostalgia bait though. But I really loved the story Miley told about like a boy gets like a butterfly catcher and is like chasing butterflies and he can't get any. And then he like sits up and like gives up and then a butterfly lands on his nose. That was the acceptance speech she gave where I was like, wow, like that's so true about life. Like sometimes you put in all this work and then the moment you just like let go and you're like, okay,
if it's meant to be. Like then she said that's when flowers came to her. And I think you can see that with Malibu, where like she was trying to find this sound that she eventually got to with like a song like Flowers. So
yeah.
But I guess like, do you have anything else you want to add or?
Well, I was going to say, what do you think is going to happen to the music industry now that UMG has removed their music from TikTok?
So, I mean, I think they will come to like a conclusion, but I think that there's a chance that UMG is punished in the algorithm.
That is a very real thing.
Not the big artists, but like the mid to lower level artists.
Yeah.
TikTok might be like, we don't want them to have a trend because what if you pull the music again?
Right.
So I do think ultimately the mid to lower level artists at UMG are really suffering. But I also think that it's going to be this really great window for unsigned indie label or even like smaller artists like Atlantic or Warner to really take off. I also think Universal, unfortunately, might take a really big hit with signing new talent in the next few years because
I think
of this.
is the most scary part about it. Or also, I think this is a coincidence, but Megan Thee Stallion left Universal.
Oh,
and
really?
I think like it was like a few days after, and I'm like, this has to be a months-long contract negotiation. But when she got like rights to her masters and stuff back, it's not through Universal, it's through somebody
Warner,
else.
yeah.
So I was like, oh, whoa, like there could even be an exodus. But I don't know, it's weird. I do think that they'll come to a conclusion. Like I think it's going to be a sort of SAG part 2 situation where it's like a few months.
Yeah.
But then they'll get somewhere. But
the fallout will be permanent.
The fallout is what is interesting. I think that is, and I think it's interesting too because people are talking about what's happening now. And I'm like, I think what's happening now is actually not the interesting part.
Yeah.
But it's like what's to come after that could change things a lot. Or also, I'm interested to see too, like, what if a YouTube or Meta just writes a fat check to UMG and is like, we'll pay an exclusivity deal, and they can't go back on TikTok for a year. And then that's interesting too, because then we get in a weird situation where music's on different platforms, but also like in theory that would support the artists, because if there's a specific like, you know, increase in revenue for exclusivity, they'll be getting paid more per stream. But I made a video about this, about like what I hated about the UMG thing is like TikTok really sometimes does not care if something's a moral gray area so long as it is getting views.
Right, it's short-sighted.
Like the example I was using was, you remember that Lana Del Rey bow trend when it was like parts of Say Yes to Heaven, and it was the bow part, right? Or Let the Light In. I don't remember what song it was. The Lana Del Rey bow trend. And the original video that blew up, they did not use her sound. Like they used the song, but they like edited it in CapCut, right? So it said like original audio by ABC XYZ. Then this trend blows up, gets millions and millions and millions and millions of views, but everybody's using that audio from the video. So because of that, the actual artist who made the music gets no revenue, no traction to the song. Like, and I was like, that is like a very clear issue that TikTok could fix, because on YouTube it just gets demonetized, or the monetization goes to the artist, right? Yeah. Like if we play a Lana Del Rey song right now, we do not make money off this video.
Our Tate McRae video went to Tate McRae.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And I'm like, so that proves to me that the technology exists. Like YouTube has been doing it for years. TikTok chooses not to do that.
Right.
And that I think is like a really just unethical gray area. And that's the type of stuff when I think I'm like, okay, that's like, there is some like legitimate cause to what they're doing here.
I 100% agree with you. I do think that there is also this weird dicey territory where I'm like, for me, and I love TikTok, and they'll always have a soft spot in my heart. It has lost a little bit of its magic touch for me. I don't use it as often. I don't even post as much myself. And part of it is I don't want to see another beach waver curling wand from TikTok Shop. I don't want to see another, dirt pillow for your neck. Like it's so addy now, and I hate it. And what I'm curious about is so all of these like hokey, and I've championed TikTok Shop before, but I do think it's a little hokey now. My question is, how is a curling iron allowed to use a Taylor Swift song in 100 videos to promote their damn curling iron on TikTok Shop? If that same brand took out a commercial space for the Super Bowl to promote their curling iron and used a Taylor Swift song, it would cost them millions and millions, and it probably wouldn't get approved. So I'm like, so I think that also I could see Universal being motivated by people are I made hundreds of dollars from one video for a TikTok shop for a microphone, and I didn't use an audio, but like say someone uses a Tate McRae song to sell a Red Bull can, does the money go to Red Bull or should it go to Tate McRae? Like, you know, like, or should it be split? And I do think there's this weird, now that there's more money involved on TikTok, I do think there needs to be more of a borderline in what's allowed.
And I think also the whole argument too was that at the beginning when TikTok was really musically still, they were okay with that because they felt like the benefit outweighed the cost.
Right. And people weren't making money like that.
And people weren't making money. And I think now that like they're trying to push long form content, they're not trying to do that as much. Now people are making money that they're like, hey, we need to reevaluate this relationship because this was once upon a time really serving people. So it was like a quid pro quo. And if that's not there, then we want to discuss it. And like, I can't blame them for that.
Yeah.
But then also it sucks that because I think that like what you're describing is something that's like very much a problem for Drake and Taylor Swift, but is not a problem for any mid to low tier artists. And it is a little like, I don't know who they're protecting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was like one artist, Cody Fry, who he has this one and he really summed it up perfectly. The morning that the music was gone, his video was the first on my feed when I woke up. And he's been interviewed by Rolling Stone. And like, maybe I'll end on this note, but he had that one song a few years ago that's like, I used to hear a simple song. It's like, I Hear a Symphony is the song. And he attributes TikTok in 2021 to like putting him on. He had another song come out recently called Things You Said. And it was featured on like a Chinese reality show. And it was blowing up in China. It got like 800 people. The day that UMG pulled his music off TikTok, the day before, there were 800,000 videos created using his sound on that singular 24 hours. 800,000 people in China created a video to his song. It was the #1 Shazam song in China that day. UMG pulled it down and he lost all of that traction.
Whoa.
And he's like made a video. He's like, I'm a mid-level artist. Like this could potentially hurt my career for the rest. Like I could have had something here and it's just, I woke up and it's gone.
Yeah.
And so I think stories like that are like where when it first got pulled, I was like, okay, whatever, it's not going to hurt Taylor. And then I was like, oh, I'm understanding who it's going to hurt.
No, and I think also it was crazy that they pulled like catalog. Like I wish it was like you can't make any new videos because then that's like, okay, all these people, like I've seen some UMG artists and you scroll through their TikTok and it's like mute. Like you just see that every video they made for the past like 6 months is just muted.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, like that is really hard.
And it's also, you guys, from a marketing standpoint, it's giving Vine. It's giving, don't ever rely on any sort of medium that you do not completely own.
Yes.
We've been a champion of creators specifically. I'm not talking about artists. Do not use trending audios to get famous because you will never own those completely and they can be gone tomorrow. And rightfully so, you don't own the music. So
yeah, but your ability to tell a story, you can do that anywhere.
No one can take that from you. Yeah. So we'll end here. Thank you guys so much for the subscriptions. For our Discord has been growing so much lately.
Yeah, dude, go watch the Spotify Effect interview. It was our first ever guest episode. It was so much fun to do. I learned so much and we would love to work with Spotify again.
Yes.
So run it up, you know?
And let us know if you guys want to see the vlogs that are in the archives.
Oh, yeah.
Let us know because we can post it. Thank you guys. Follow us along on Instagram and Instagram stories for our Vegas trip. We'll keep you guys posted.
Bye.
Bye.